actually getting inspired now to send registered mail to Mr. Garrison, the organizer of Humanity Rising, sending him registered mail and saying, why is it that you are not addressing head on the conversation, how do we save life on Earth, in the following terms? And here we've created a whole video addressing this in much more detail that a bunch of us on 3 different continents put together, and here it is. All right. Love to hear from you and love to help you organize the conversation on Humanity Rising. Let's do it together. We're here to help, right? Let's do it. And we're also offering to create a space to have the pre-conversation. Basically, okay, Humanity Rising, we're not ready to have the conversation yet, so let's talk about that. We're afraid. And also, we're having a hard time imagining all this privilege going away. We're having a hard time imagining dying.
And about Humanity Rising, do they have industrial animal abuse, meat and dairy?
No, I didn't notice anything. No, I didn't notice anything about that. It's much more soft stuff. It's like, you know, bring Charles Eisenstein out of the closet and have him, you know, hold his hands together and say namaste and, you know, do his normal, you know, bullshit. I've got his book here, by the way, his latest book. I've got all his books, but his latest is, you know, Climate, a New Story. And he talks about Guy McPherson, you know, deep into the book, and essentially kind of writes him off, right? Well, that's an outlier. Look, he's not facing reality, right? I think Charles's approach to Humanity Rising is, you know, book sales rising. Let me get in there, give some talks, impress a bunch of people with how eloquent I am, and sell some more books. It's book sales rising, right? Income rising.
Damon, would you read out that? Have you got the book there? Could you read out that passage where this is Guy McPherson?
Yeah. I'll go get it.
I feel furious about this.
Yeah, I'm furious too.
I did think when I saw, because I was recommended Charles Eisenstein by a friend, and I just thought he was, I hate myself for saying this almost, but I just thought, what a quack, you know, he's going around selling potions. You know, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
You know,
let me get the book. I'll be right back.
What are they called? You know, these people that sell these poisons in a bottle as medicine. What's the name for that? That's what I thought. I just thought, this is more opiate of the people stuff. When it was like the conversation was going round and round and round and round, and you know, it was like a yoga wash. You know, I don't need yoga wash in my life. As in greenwash, I don't need greenwash. I don't need yoga wash. I don't need anything wash. Give me the truth. Give me the facts. You know, even if they're a bit ugly, give me the facts.
Yeah, well, and that's right, because when we think about it, if Dr. Rao's white paper is correct, and Goodland and Anghang as well, that industrial animal agriculture is the leading cause of global warming, and now we're knowing it's also the leading cause of zoonotic disease.
So the Guy McPherson references, let me find them.
While you're looking for that, I was just responding to So, Jamin. I was just responding to So.
So, page 56.
I don't know if Jamin can hear us.
Yeah. Okay.
The first thing he says, so just to give it some context, this first reference, it's chapter 3, the climate spectrum and beyond, right? I'm going to give a Jamin cynical subtext. It's a popularity contest. Let's see which perspective is the most popular and why. You know, what is this, Hollywood Weekly? All right, so the climate spectrum and beyond, and it says, you know, which side am I on? And so he's got basically like the main, the bright lines on the spectrum, shall we say? What are the leading, the leading perspectives on climate? So here they are. Number one, climate change skepticism. Oh, great. Let's start with that, Charles. Yeah, that's important. Let's talk about that. I assume you all can hear me okay. I just put my earbuds back in, thanks. So number two, techno-optimism. We've been hearing about that for decades. Can we get over that? Three, climate orthodoxy. Oh, let me read this. Climate orthodoxy. The burning of fossil fuels poses a grave threat to humanity and the planet. If we do not act quickly to cut emissions and limit warming to 2 degrees C, the future will bring rising sea level. This is denialism. Climate orthodoxy. It's oh, we just cut emissions and everything will be fine. Give me a break. Number four, climate justice and systems change, right? It's a bunch of PC stuff. This viewpoint is a step toward deeper radicalism, Heaven forbid we should deal with the asteroid that's hurtling towards Earth, Charles. Let's talk about this viewpoint is a step towards deeper radicalism. Great, let's spend the next 100 years pondering that. And then last, subtext least, climate catastrophism. Ugh, even the name sounds so distasteful. Rather like bitter tea with no sweetener. Horrid. This viewpoint basically says that it is already too late to prevent catastrophic climate change. Oh, these unfortunate people who get so catastrophic in their thinking. They must have gotten banged on the head when they were little children. It's too late to prevent catastrophic climate change, except perhaps with an immediate response far beyond anything that is politically conceivable today. And perhaps not even then. The more moderate prognosticators foresee a dramatic collapse of society, a population crash, socio-political upheaval, and a major regress in technological levels. Those on the more extreme end predict temperature rises of 6 to 10 degrees centigrade within the next few decades, which would mean the end of civilization and possibly the extinction of the human species. Some, such as Guy McPherson, predict human extinction within 10 years. So he's just like at the tail end of the most extreme radical freak show. He drags out Guy McPherson. Let me see what else he says about Guy. Anything more here? Oh, and then he says, what could possibly unite such disparate viewpoints? I mean, so this is where he's at. This is Sociology 101. Heaven forbid we should deal with the asteroid hurtling towards Earth, Charles. Okay, now let me read.
Damon.
Next. Yeah, Miles.
Damon, so what we have been hearing is a whole lot of pages of esoteric, I think is the word, just a lot of words, flowery words, and sociology. As Sol was saying while you went looking for that book, she says, yeah, she just wants the truth. And indeed, if Dr. Rao's white paper is correct, and he's more than willing to debate it with anybody, then all those words that you were just reading, to a large part, become unnecessary, because if industrial meat and dairy is the leading cause of climate change and a big part of the solution, next is solar radiation management in ASAP, as you've been saying. But if the truth is that simply by everyone writing their next grocery list without meat and dairy on it changes the world, then that guy is out of business, to a large extent, right? But as long as we are not having the conversation, it's business as usual. Slaughterhouses are spreading disease, killing disadvantaged workers with zoonotic COVID-19, and the machine grinds on. But
Don't-
Dr. Rao, so his proposal, if it's true, is a dramatic, easily implemented solution, but it needs all these experts, all these doctors, all these scientists say, yeah, he's right. And we need to stop meat and dairy.
You've hit the nail on the head, Miles. Basically, there's not much money in the solution side of things. You just got to keep eking out the problem. That book, Jamin, I would like you to measure it. How many centimeters thick is that book? I'm going to call it pulp wisdom. You know, pay me by the centimeter for waffling on. And when you could have said it in a two-liner, the end of the world is nigh. You know, you could have. I'm more with the Jehovah's Witnesses on this one.
It's 277 pages of bullshit. And here, let me read the second reference to Guy McPherson. It's under a section. This is now like 12 pages later, and it's in a section called "The End of the World." A politically progressive friend described her experience of spending a week with her in-laws, who consumed a steady diet of Fox News. By the end of the week, she said, she understood how it seemed to them that anyone who voted for Hillary Clinton must be an idiot. The conservative media creates its own reality bubble. Okay, so now we're in the realm of reality bubbles. The same might be said for the world of climate skepticism and for its mirror opposite, the world of climate catastrophism. These are just different reality bubbles, right? None of them are objective. I encourage the reader to spend some time in each of these reality bubbles. Oh, how enlightened and PC of you, Charles. Anchored with scientists and writers like Guy McPherson, Paul Ehrlich, Paul Beckwith, David Wallace Wells, and Malcolm Light, the catastrophist camp criticizes mainstream climate science along many of the same lines as the skeptics do. Well, how fascinating, Charles. Heaven forbid we should deal with the actual asteroid heading towards Earth. Let's look at these different perspectives. And it's really interesting that Guy McPherson has something in common with Fox News. That's worthy of a paper in itself. Maybe I'll write another book about that and make another $1 million. Thank you. Well, let's read on. It says that scientists ignore data that doesn't fit their worldview or for which they are psychologically unprepared. Even when they do realize, well, anyway, bottom line, he doesn't, there's no there. He doesn't say, look, here's what's up. We're overheating exponentially. We've got to slam on the brakes. Cutting emissions and stopping eating meat isn't going to get there fast enough. We need the big guns of SRM. That's it. That's the reality. You know, wake up, Charles. Yo, Charles. Whoa, wake up. Right?
And it's also like the Calgary Climate Hub, this local climate organization that tries to go drum up membership at $50 a piece. And yet the three things that they came up with: free public transit in the city, that buildings the city builds should be those environmentally leading type structures, and that they want to have some input in how any money that the city puts towards climate initiatives, they have a say on how to spend. Where's the meat and dairy shutting it down? Or, let's talk about Dr. Rao's report. Let's talk about meat and dairy. So maybe jumping ahead for anybody to say we're really going to shut it down before they've talked about it. But you know what I mean? But these people they don't want to even have the conversation. So the pre-conversation, as you said, we've got to start using registered mail. When they fail to respond, another letter, registered mail. Okay, why are you not responding to me? And document, archive, and say everybody's on notice. Dr. Rao wants to debate his paper, and one way or another, people are going to be exposed for not taking up the challenge if they call themselves academics. Get out of your ivory towers and get down to the people and the truth.
Exactly. I mean, as you said there in that statement there, Jamin, psychologically unable or incapable of dealing with the issues. That's just a very simple way of what we're saying here. They're just too frightened to talk about the truth. Psychologically incapable is just a fancy way of saying we're too afraid to talk about the truth. So we'll prance around all the edges of it, but we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty.
But there's something that they're going to lose by telling that truth, and that is the job, the status, the book deal, the talk tour. There is something in it. It's the bigger house. It's the conferences in Switzerland where they can go on a jolly. It's always economic. It's a question of economics, as the tramp said when he was picking up a cigarette butt. It's a question of economics.
It's a question of... Go ahead, Jim.
Sorry, Jim. If those are the hindrances holding these people back from having the actual conversation, when they are in the know, then they're just a bunch of hypocrites as far as I'm concerned. Because if they're in the know, but the idea of losing, prestige or anything else, look, it's all nice having prestige and having trophies on the mantelpiece. But what if the mantelpiece is fucking melting away and you can't even balance the trophies on it anymore? There's no point. Prestige and career are going out the window with the climate, you know what I mean, and everything else. So there's no time for any of that anymore. None of that matters anymore. What matters is the conversation and getting the thing sorted out.
Yeah, exactly. And the reality is that the conversation properly had, which is an ongoing thing, it's a process, but properly had, the conversation makes books like this obsolete. Why? This book would be obsolete the day it's written. Why? Because you'd have a conversation and you'd put it on the table and then you'd progress from there, right? This is bringing people back to a snapshot in time of, 13 months ago or whenever the hell this book was written, right? Of whatever his thinking was at the time. It's a bedtime story. It's the kind of thing to lull you to sleep. Oh, I'm sure glad that smart people like Charles Eisenstein are thinking about all this. That gives me hope that we'll figure out a way through. He's just selling more books and going on more tours. I met him face to face. I offered that we work together to build collective intelligence to figure this out. He blew me off. But it's not about me. It's about the conversation already. That'll make all this crap obsolete. Let's have the conversation. And it'll lead to one of two conclusions. Either there is a hyper solution that can get us out of the death spiral, or we're going down and there's no way to get back out. Right? I think that's what people are afraid of. They're afraid of they're afraid of either of those scenarios. One, of some hyper solution now that they now need to give themselves to because it's the only game in town, or the other, that there is no way out to safety and we're all going to die. I think they're afraid of both of those. I'm not sure which one they're more afraid of. And so what's the world doing? It's floating around, reading books, bedtime stories, and watching these well-heeled speakers give really nice talks. That was a very interesting talk. So I thought that talk that Charles just delivered was very interesting. I thought that was very insightful about how he made the comparison to like Fox News and Guy McPherson. I thought that was really good. Didn't you think so? Yeah. Hello. And then also, I think this fetish with the United Nations and its Millennium Development Goals, it's like it's like wanting to fucking believe in Santa Claus. It's wanting to believe that the United Nations has this figured out, and thank goodness we've got the United Nations, New York with all their flags, Geneva, thank God we have the United Nations. We might as well be praying to God. We're praying to the United Nations to save us.
You know
It's a
that
baby, a baby's comforter.
sorry. You know
It's a
in that
baby's
book.
comforter.
You know in that book, Jamin, he's got the categories, the catastrophizers and the other bunch, the various bubbles. But if starvation from mass crop failure isn't a catastrophe, then what is? I'm binning Charles Eisenstein now. That big pulp wisdom quasi-Bible rubbish is going straight in the bin. My friend who's been taken in by him, sorry, Karen, you're on the wrong track there. This guy is another snake oil guy.
And it's the warm blanket believe in Santa Claus effect, right? Except we're believing kind of in multiple Santa Clauses. We believe in the Santa Claus of the United Nations. They're going to solve it. How could they not solve it? They're this big United Nations. Oh, Charles Eisenstein, he's so smart, and he thinks so deeply about this. And even before he begins his talk, he puts his hands together, and it's like he's so reverential. I believe in Charles Eisenstein. Like, we want to believe that there are these smart people out there who have it figured out, right? Just like we want to believe in God or believe in Santa Claus or believe in whatever helps you go to bed at night. Oh yeah, thanks, Miles, for your reminder that we'll get bounced soon. I actually, things are so tight technically that I actually didn't have to start this meeting a half an hour before 6 a.m. I started it just a few minutes before. So we'll get booted literally probably a couple of minutes before, in about a half an hour from now, we'll get booted. When we do get booted, just re-enter the room. And we'll all be right back, and it'll be probably just in time for the countdown at that point. Don't tell anyone, but I pretty much started right on time, or maybe a minute late. We may get booted after the countdown, but we'll still come back. I'll come back, even if it's after the countdown.
We give we're quite kind really to these snake oil salesmen. You give them the benefit of doubt and all the rest of it, but there's that guy willfully sneering everybody else's little piece of the jigsaw puzzle that they're exploring, and having no compunction, it seems, happily writing his big pulp wisdom stuff. But he's willing to diss Guy McPherson and put him into some little side bubble. And yet we are quite nervous about being disrespectful to him. But why? You should just, nice is dangerous sometimes. You know that? Nice is dangerous.
Totally agree.